Hey everyone, it's Gunter here, and welcome to my first video where I'm going to be sharing my journey about building a no-code product. So why am I doing this? Well, it's heading towards the end of the year and I've got a few days, I wouldn't say free, but a few days of leave, obviously loads of stuff to do. But I thought I would have a go at looking at this no-code movement, which seems to be getting a bit of traction. There's a lot of publicity around it. There's a lot of discussion. I've picked up a lot of stuff on Twitter. So I'm really keen to investigate it a little bit more and learn some new things for myself. So yeah, in terms of coding, I used to code many years ago, back in the 90s, built some moderately successful kind of B2B products, but for some reason just couldn't keep up with the technology, and my time, my role changed, my career changed slightly. So sort of coding fell by the wayside. It's always been a hobby of mine, so I've always sort of kept tabs on it, and I've dabbled a little bit, playing around with the odd platforms, but never really making any serious progress. And I think the problem is that, learning something like HTML and CSS, for instance, which was my last foray into trying to get back into coding, the challenge is you don't use it, or if you don't use it on a regular basis, you kind of forget about the thing. So then of course I've come across this no code movement, or low code movement, and it's gotten me really excited. I'm happy to say I was introduced to it by a fellow growth mentor, Felix Wong. So Felix, thank you so much for making the introduction to this new movement. And I featured or will be featuring Felix on my podcast, the Agile Career Podcast. So a bit of a shameless plug there. Season 2 coming up soon. And in his interview, Felix talked a lot about no code and how he sees this as being a really big movement and something of the future. And also shared some of his pet projects that he's been building using platforms like Notion, for example. So I thought, let's give it a go, and decided to build a product. And I wanted to share the journey. Hopefully it'll bring some, knowledge, or at least entertainment. But also for me, it's a way of keeping myself accountable to make sure that I'm making progress or moving forward. And of course, it's always nice kind of documenting your journey so you kind of know what worked and what didn't work. So without further ado, let me talk through some of the stuff I've progressed in the first 24 hours. Now, arguably, I did have a sort of day free today, so I made progress. I don't expect it to be the same every day, but here we go. So the first thing really was to kind of think of what product I might want to build. And the best way that I found to do that is to build something for yourself. So I decided to build a change management toolkit. And this is going to be a set of tools, or I've called them templates, processes, and guidance, that will be useful to business change managers, project managers, or anyone really that's responsible for building and delivering not only a technology solution, but any kind of project or solution within an organization, being responsible for successfully implementing that, and also making sure that the change sticks, so that the changes that are brought about are embedded. So I'm quite passionate about business change and change management, but I won't go into all of that right now. What I really wanted to do was build up a toolkit to help support those sorts of roles and those sorts of jobs. Although I said it was something that I'm doing for myself, this is a product that I am looking for, or have been looking for, and would find useful. I firstly wanted to go and do a little bit of idea validation, because I didn't really want to go out and build something that, was just going to be so niche that there wouldn't be any kind of audience that might take it up. So I spent some time doing idea validation, and a lot of it focused really on what I might name the project. So, was it going to be a project management toolkit, a change management or business change toolkit? So what I did was I spent a bit of time online, predominantly on Google Trends, and did a very quick analysis, and I'm going to share that with you now. So let's just get that spreadsheet flashed up there. Right, so what you can see here, and I appreciate that this might be a bit small, so let's just zoom in a little, was looking at the sorts of terms that would be associated with this sort of toolkit. So if I was a project manager, or if I was a change manager or business change manager, what might I be searching for to help with my job. So I came up with some of the key concepts. So you can see here different combinations: business change, change management, business change management, appending those with toolkits and templates. And then also I started looking at some very specific methodologies like ProC and ADCAR, which are methodologies that I in fact use. And then I kind of expanded the search to be more generic in terms of roles, terms like project management, and you can see user adoption as well. Now, what I found quite a challenge, or where I was very disappointed at first, was looking at Google Trends. And I started looking at the numbers, and they all looked incredibly low. And it took me a while to figure out that Google Trends has changed the way they present data. I seem to recall last time looking at it that they would present the number of searches for a particular term over a particular period of time. They seem to have taken that away now and replaced it with a level of interest where 100 being, the highest interest, and the lower it goes, the less interest. So after an initial disappointment looking at these numbers, I was a little more encouraged, seeing some of the key terms, were ranking really well. So things like business change, change management, ADCAR, project management, and things like toolkits and templates to a lesser degree. I then went and looked for some other keyword, used some other tools for keyword research, and you can see this is where I got the numbers here. It was a free tool that did have an API to Google, so I didn't spend too long on that, did some basics, and came up with a similar pattern. So these are the number of searches, average searches over a 12-month period, across those different territories, the UK, the US, and Germany. I then went and logged on to Google AdSense, I think it's called, and used the keyword planner. Now, what the keyword planner does is it gives you a little more insight into the number of searches, although it does band them, and the banding brackets are quite high. It was quite easy to run though. All I did was copy and paste all my terms, search for them, and you can see it gives you a low and a high. So for instance, if I look at change management, it says there's between 100,000 and 1 million searches per month. And so you can see the stats for the rest. So, this made me feel quite comfortable with the idea I had in mind, and I was going to progress it. And that also helped me name the product that I was going to build. So I decided on change management. It did have a lower interest than business change, but you can see the sort of searches are a lot higher than business change. So that is the name I went with. And of course, that's the name you can see up in the PowerPoint here. Right, so next I did some basic project management, built a very small backlog, just sort of noted down some of the key tasks I wanted to do. And I do normally do this for all sorts of projects, regardless of whether they're technology related projects or not. But the one key thing I did, and this is what I typically don't do for my sort of pet projects or side hustles or whatever it is do some time recording. So I've launched a number of online courses, sort of number of ebooks and all sorts of other things over the last few years. And I've never really recorded the time I've taken on them. So, when you look at how much money you might make from them, or you do make from them, you don't really know how much it's cost to produce them. So I've started doing some time recording, using ClickUp to do this actually. So just kind of managing a task board, recording my time against the tasks. And I'm going to be able to do a bit of analysis after I finish the project to understand how much it actually costs. So both in terms of any products that I might use, and then I suppose the more expensive component is the time that I'll be spending on it. So what else did I do? Created some basic online assets, and this was really just a few graphics. You can see the one on the left. It's just like a very basic kind of book cover. I started doing a bit more work in terms of making it a little more appealing, like a 3D box. And in the next slide, I'm going to cover a few lessons learned, because that turned out to be a bit of a time waster. But I'll leave that for the next slide. I built a landing page. Now again, I did look around. I did spend a bit of time deciding on what tool to use. Card, that's CARDD, seems to be quite popular. I checked it out briefly. as did I looked at also one or two other things. What I did though in the end was I went with something I know and also have the infrastructure in place already. I used WordPress, and I also have a Divi WordPress builder. So I used that to build the landing page, and what we can go and take a look and see what that looks like right now. Right, let's get onto it. So there we go. Let's just give that a refresh. So basically there it is. So all I'm doing is just kind of pitching what the toolkit is, what it's going to kind of look like. And I want to just get people to sign up, capture their email addresses and names so I can keep them up to date with the progress, possibly even share some of the production of the product with them, these sorts of videos. But ultimately the view is that I'll have a list of people I can keep in touch with. And once the toolkit launches, I can let them know, and hopefully they will be keen to potentially purchase the toolkit. Also a great way to keep in touch with people that sign up is to solicit feedback from them, sorts of features and things that they'd like to see in the toolkit. So that's the thinking here. And I'll be promoting, I think, that this landing page a little more, or I will be promoting it to try and get some signups. Still get to think about how I'm going to best do that. But that'll no doubt come in a subsequent video. Right, so what next? I also set up SSL. I think it was quite important to, once people come to a landing page, that it is secure, and, they're not too worried about sharing their email address. They're giving away no personal details except their first name, but, people are protective of their email addresses. So I wanted to set that up. And the one thing that I would say is, in terms of building the landing page, I said I used WordPress and Divi. I was lucky in that I've already got an existing infrastructure. I use those tools for all my other websites, as well as having, set up SSL on those. So, that sort of infrastructure bit was quite quick and easy to do. If you're starting it from scratch, it would probably take a bit longer, and, it would be worth your while kind of looking at alternatives. Although, they are great tools, WordPress and Divi, that is. So yeah, definitely recommend those. Right, as I said, the email list. So what you didn't see here is that there's obviously some back end to this, and again I used a tool that I already use. I use MailChimp, and essentially that maintains the email list in the back end. And I also created a very basic email sequence. Whoops, I've skipped ahead there. I created a very basic email sequence so that once someone signs up here, they receive a welcome email, that introduces them a little more to the product and how I'd like to keep in touch with them. So that all got set up using MailChimp. Of course, it all integrates with Divi and WordPress, so it's all working quite nicely now. And I'll see how that runs over the next few days. Then finally, I set up Google Analytics. Again, I had a Google Analytics account that I use for my other websites. But I just integrated it into this landing page so that I could track kind of activity on the website. Hopefully it'll start working soon. There seems to be a bit of a lag, but I'll give that a test in probably tomorrow, to be fair. Right, so that was day one. What did I learn? Well, I didn't actually get to building any of the product yet. But this is always the case with these sorts of projects. It's just, starting properly, building a solid foundation, and I think I've done that okay. But what did I learn? Well, and these are lessons I should already know and do, but it's worth thinking about again. And the one I've said here is think about what your time is worth. So the one thing that I wasted a lot of time on was trying to design a 3D kind of box, to make it look as if the kit's coming in a box, like a book cover. At the moment, you can see the one on the left is just 2D. And I already faffed about for way much longer than I should have. Played with evaluation software, looked at free stuff, and it just doesn't give you what you want. So I just popped onto Fiverr. I've, put a gig out there, or taken up someone's gig to build one for like $5. And I'm expecting that in the next couple of days. So yeah, that's the first thing. Don't waste time on stuff like that. Just pay $5 and get it done by someone else who knows how to do it quickly and that's got the software. Next, for the supporting bits, stick with the tools you already have or know. So again, I wouldn't say I wasted time looking at other, email lists and landing page things, because it's always good to just kind of compare and see what's out there. But in the end, it was quicker for me to just use the stuff I already know, the stuff I already have. So yeah, that's a good tip. Try not to obsess with the details. Now, this is incredibly difficult, I know, because we want our landing pages to look great. We want our websites to look great. We want the graphics to look great. But what I wanted to do was get something out there quickly, get that landing page out there, start capturing email addresses, start building the products. So those were the key lessons then, and the progress I made today. Thanks for watching. I do hope this is useful for you. So please leave any comments below in the video. Do feel free to get in touch with me either via the comments, or you can drop me a note at info@gunterrichter.com. That's GUNTERRICHTER. I'm on Twitter, I'm on LinkedIn. So yeah, please look me up and get in touch. I'd love to hear from you, and I look forward to speaking to you in the next video.